Hey, what's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. We are talking offseason as the World Series is behind us, and there is nothing but empty space until spring training. Pitchers and catchers are still a ways away. The offseason is upon us, and we'll talk about what the Giants need to focus on, plus get to some manager and coaching updates. Not updates as much as speculation, but it's time to discuss that as well. Before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Mancini Sleep World's Black Friday sale is on with savings of up to $1,200 on top mattress brands. Plus, for the first time ever, they're having 14 days of deals starting on November 14th. Every single day, they will feature a brand new limited time deal. Don't sleep on this. Visit your local Mancini Sleep World or visit sleepworld.com. Okay, Alex, off-season's here. How you doing? How's it feel?
I'm ready to be on call. So we're in the sweet spot right now, the 5 days between the end of the World Series and in the start of the off-season. We know nothing really happens until end of November usually, but
yes,
who knows? Buster's done stuff at weird times. So
yeah. This isn't a traditional team anymore, man. Anything could happen at any time.
We're on emergency pod watch for – What's the over-under on emergency pods this offseason? I'm going to put it at 1.5.
I'll take the over on that.
Okay.
Mostly because I get a vote on when we do them. Fair. So if there's a borderline one, I can push that in the direction I need it to be.
$4 million reliever. And you're like,
yeah. Oh, emergency pod. Let's go.
Fire it up. I like it.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, I guess the first step in any spring training is to assess the team's needs. And the first part of that is figuring out who is not returning from last year's roster. Several Giants hit free agency. I don't think any of these were a surprise to us. In fact, we've discussed all of them here on Giants Talk already. But just to break it down, that would be Wilmer Flores, Dominic Smith, and Justin Verlander. And of course, Tom Murphy, what will go down as an all-time Giants signing. His option was declined as well.
Yeah, the three all four of them we saw coming. Not like a huge, nothing this offseason. They don't have a big arbitration list. There's not like there's some interesting Rule 5 guys that we'll get to later this month. But not like it's not a huge class of like huge names. Not a year where you're like, oh, that top prospect or whatever. And then at their free agent class, like it's some very popular guys in the clubhouse, but not a big class. It's 4 guys currently. And there weren't a lot of options. There was just the Tom Murphy option, which was the biggest no-brainer in team option history.
Yep, I dare say.
Yeah, it was an obvious one. So yeah, just not a whole lot going into this, but like you mentioned, you reset at the start of the offseason, and 4 guys who I think we have probably, with 2 of them, we've said our goodbyes. Like it was Tom Murphy, we never even really said hello, but Wilmer Flores had his final weekend. Dominic Smith is the fascinating one to me because you could, if they wanted to bring him back and make the argument that this is coverage for Bryce Eldridge, and if not, he's on the bench. You could make that argument. You and I both have talked about this one a ton, going back to how good he was during the season. Just probably doesn't make sense for either side. But maybe there's a reunion there. And then Justin Verlander, actually fills a huge need for him. I don't know if I would. A couple things. One, I thought he was obviously really good in the second half. I thought he was unbelievable behind the scenes. It was something I will always remember as watching his work ethic at 42 and how bought in he was from the start of spring training and during the season and all of that. He was everything they could have asked for, and then would pitch really well when they needed it the last 2 months. I just wonder a couple from the team standpoint, and we kind of, I think, hit on this with Scherzer a little bit. Do you want to try that again? You maybe got some found money here by doing it with Verlander once and hitting on it. Do you want to keep trying it with the 40-somethings and hoping that you get, remember early in the season, Verlander goes on the IL and we're like, oh, here you go. And then from his perspective, he lives in Florida. He just had a second baby. He was away from his family most of the year, away from his family all spring, first spring in Arizona. Does he want to have a spring in Florida? Find a team that can do that? And does he want to find a team that, it's going to give him a better shot at 300 wins? It's going to give him, and he actually pitched well enough to pile up wins for the Giants, but there's got to be some bad taste in his mouth from going through that and being like, how did I end up where I ended up?
I mean, he's such a professional that any bad taste is obviously completely not apparent.
Yeah.
He was cool to have here, but if the conversation comes down to Tony Vitello's old friend Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander, it seems like you got to really embrace the new wild card dynamic.
Yeah, I think I would and I would say the same with Scherzer. I mean, I think with either one of them, I think I would like more certainty with those final 2 rotation spots that they have currently up for grabs. And that doesn't mean Framber Valdez or, guys at the top of the market. We know that pitching wise, they don't generally swim in those waters. They don't love the 9-figure contracts for pitchers, but I think I would like a little more certainty and maybe a little more upside where, a Verlander, like, it'd be great if he came back and posted if I told you Verlander's going to make 24 starts next year at 3.9 ERA, you'd be like, awesome.
Yeah.
But that's probably the best case. I think probably, like, just given what we just saw and given he is going to be 43. So I think I'd want to, like, take a real shot on someone where you're like, hey, we figured it out with that dude. He's, maybe a 1-year, if it's a 1-year guy, maybe a younger 1-year guy. Like, they had success with Gausman and DeSclafani at first and Alex Wood. I think I'd rather take those shots. Now, if Verlander's back, it's valuable to the team. If Scherzer's part of it, we saw what he did in the World Series. It looked like he still has something left in the tank, but I don't know. I think I would want a little more upside.
Yeah, I don't see either of these guys being, that hard. They're that high up on the rotation. I think that's why, obviously, it's pick up one of these guys and get something with a little more mustard on it.
Yeah.
But presumably both contracts would be roughly what they had this year. Verlander was 15, Scherzer was 15 and a half. I would absolutely claim one of those guys at that same number.
Yeah, 1-year deal, they're always, we'll get to the Murphy contract and maybe compare it to some others, but 1-year deal, it's never really going to hurt. I just wonder if there's 1-year deals where you have a little bit more of a chance to really like hit on it. Like if this guy hits, if you figure this out, you have a really strong, like number 2, number 3 starter maybe.
Yeah.
And I also, they're in a position with Robbie Ray's contract expiring after next season and not a whole lot on the books pitching wise, where it doesn't have to be the 6-year contract. They can go get a couple guys on 3-year contracts, 2-year contracts, some guys who are not in it for one season. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Buster plays this one. I don't think we're going to be looking at a bunch of 7-year deals, but there's an in-between there where you can find some guys who are valuable for a couple of years, 2-3 years.
Well, you mentioned,
I'll just also say, I think there's so many guys this offseason, like going through some of these free agent lists, and you get down like Zach Gallen's pretty far down some of these lists. Like, that's a name. And unfortunately, our guy Shane Bieber, the Gaucho, decided to go back to Toronto, but like,
good for him.
Those are the type of guys where I'm like, is one of those guys maybe sitting there and looking for a shorter term deal, or does Gallen want a chance to rebuild his value and just go crazy next offseason and get his $150 million? Because he was a Cy Young finalist like 2 years ago with Logan Webb. So it's those guys. I think there's some upside there.
Yeah. All right. Well, you already mentioned Tom Murphy and his contract, so let's touch on that before we move on in this free agency discussion. Giants declined the $4 million option. And we've had this mailbag question from Travis. Travis says,
for a while,
is it possibly the worst contract is the possible worst contract in Giants history finally over?
It is. He had 2 questions. That was one of them. My first reaction was just, first thing I thought of was the Mark Melancon contract. And then like real older guys like us remember Armando Benitez. And I started going through.
Say Aaron Rowan.
Yeah, and you start going through the list all time. Like, I know Brian Sabian had a famous quote about Barry Zito's contract was worth it because of the postseason. It also was 126 million that they didn't get a whole lot out of over the years.
Worth every penny.
I would give you that argument if you want to, but I think even in the Farhan era, which there were a lot of good moves, but you could also look like Jordan Hicks, 4 years, 44 million.
Yeah.
Mitch Haniger, 3 years, 43.5 million. The second DeSclafani deal, 3 years, 36 million. So I think there were a lot of this is also making me wonder about my go get a guy on like a 3-year contract, but just get the right guy. There were a lot that Tom Murphy played 13 games for the Giants. It did not go well. He was not around this entire season, just rehabbing the whole year and never got close. But it ultimately is $8 million.
Exactly. I don't think it can even be in the running for worst contract in Giants history when, $8 million, an insane amount of money to someone like you and me, but chump change for a Major League Baseball contract.
Yeah, it is it's like the 70th highest contract in franchise history. So there's a lot if you go up that list.
Yes.
You just kind of go through and you're like, oh, yeah, that one. Melanson stands out, obviously. Tommy Westella, 3 years, 18 million.
Oh, yeah.
So this has happened before, but this one's fresh. And, it's unfortunate. It cost him Joey Bart. I kind of think Joey probably needed a fresh start somewhere anyway, but maybe not in that way. And it just never really made sense. Like we could never make sense of it. Nobody's ever I've asked people, nobody's ever really given me a good answer on why that was so necessary given what was in house. And then they just never really got anything out of the contract. And, it over 2 years where they did need backup catcher help. And they did need, especially early this year, did need someone who could help Patrick Bailey offensively, and just never got there.
So I guess that's the additional part of this question. What is the backup catcher situation going to shape up like in 2026? Is this basically a toss some non-roster invitees out and see if anything catches? Is this something you go recruit? We've had some wild mailbag questions about putting someone like JT Real Muto in the mix as a backup catcher.
Don't think he'll want to be a backup, but
no, and I don't think they'll want to pay that for a backup.
Probably my token answer to everything in the offseason is going to be like, if you have this X amount of dollars for that guy, go give it to a pitcher.
Yeah.
Just go find another pitcher and give it to him. Jesus Rodriguez, they really like. He's been really impressive in the minor leagues. I think he fits a lot of what Buster wants in terms of bat control. And, as a batting average guy, not a power guy. It was interesting that he was up the last week of the season, and you and I both wanted to see him actually play, but just the fact that it was a very targeted move to get him a week with the big league club, get him those bullpen sessions, get him that time. So he's certainly going to be in the mix next year. Now, I'd be a little surprised maybe if he's the opening day catcher, because I think they probably will bring somebody in to add depth, because we see it every single year. You can never have enough catching. And so that they're going to need to bring some people into camp because they're short. They're short there. And, maybe you find that the veteran guy who's a nice fit early in the season for 6 weeks or 2 months, and you see how that goes. But that'll need to be something they do in the offseason, just not, it's going to be a non-roster guy, or it's going to be a really, really cheap, 1 year, $2 million or something like that. I think I'd be shocked if, Patrick Bailey loves to catch. That's one of his things. You don't need to give him a lot of time off. So they don't need a guy to start every third game.
Yeah. All right. Well, not the highest priority on the Giants off-season list, backup catcher. So let's talk kind of what the high priorities are. Giants have a long offseason ahead of them. They have to focus on something. What do we want to give them? 3 topics, 3 things to dial in on aside from coaching, which we'll get to later.
Can I choose pitching for all 3?
I know you want to.
I really just think that's, it's such a need. it's I think even in the rotation, you have three guys that you feel great about. But Landon Roop just missed a big chunk of time with an injury, and he missed time with elbow discomfort. Like it's you just can't guarantee these things. And you know, you go to the bullpen. I think Eric Miller felt great at the end of the year, but he also missed time with elbow discomfort, like basically the entire second half. So I just think you add layers upon layers upon layers, and you know, I would go get two starters that you feel good about, and then if you could find like a Jacob Junis type that you feel good about starting on April 20th if you need the help. Because I don't know that there's not this. How many of the young guys like do we feel confident in being able to? There's guys where you go like you can see Wisenhunt, you can see the talent there. We saw McDonald at the end of the year. Birdsong, we hope he figures it out. We haven't seen Tidwell yet, but I don't know that you can go into the season counting on that many of these young guys to be a real part of this. Like you're hopeful that they can help in the second half and they can fill in the cracks. But yeah, I would want to rebuild most of the pitching staff in the offseason.
Yeah, none of the young guys are once every 5-day options at this point.
Not currently, no. Yeah. So, and there's guys there who could be, and we really believe in their talent, but you have to go add layers of defense here. And it was something, you know, if you go back to the end of season interview that Laura and I did with Buster, I mean, he mentioned that. He's like, the old adage, I mean, we found out you can never have enough pitching. And that's just, I think that has to be in their entire offseason is like every pitching market, free agent, minor league free agent, you know, the Rule 5 draft, potentially international free agents. There's going to be some options there. I just think it has to be every market you're adding guys.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, pitching, great. We're going to focus on that, Alex. We'll say 2 and 3, also pitching and also pitching. Yeah. Let's go to number 4.
Well, we should also say relief pitching, like who's their closer right now?
Yeah.
So who's their 8th inning guy right now?
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's a lot of talk about bringing back our beloved submariner.
Yeah.
And that would be awesome, but we'll see. It's not my choice to make.
He does really check off that 8th inning just right away, where you just kind of go like, okay, you're fine on opening day in the 8th inning. So, and then you go find your closer and then you build from there. So that does seem like a really obvious, and even the day it happened, you're like, all right, just come back in the offseason.
See you soon.
Yeah. Beyond that, I mean, you know, we mentioned backup catcher you're always going to add there. I think for me, the main one is corner outfield and specifically right field. If they could find someone to play center and move Jung-Hoo Lee to a corner at some point, I don't know if it'll be this offseason or next or when. I don't think that's the worst idea. He was not very good defensively late in the year, and overall the defensive metrics weren't great on him. But I don't think that's like a must this offseason. And, you know, he just had his first full season in the big leagues. So for me, it's go find a right fielder. Everyone's going to throw Kyle Tucker rumors at us all offseason. I would be shocked, given where they have been financially since the Rafi Devers trade, if they were swimming in those waters. We know their name will be out there. But I think for me, I'd go find an everyday right fielder and someone you feel good about there. And then you have that guy and Jung-Hoo Lee and Elliot Ramos. And, you know, you have Drew Gilbert and whoever behind them. But
can you guess who the number 2 free agent right fielder by WAR is available?
Cody Bellinger?
Mike Yastrzemski.
I saw him really high on, I think it was Keith Law's top 50 list.
Yeah.
He was like 20 something, I think. He was really high. And I'm like, good player.
Yeah. But we said our goodbyes.
You know what? He lives in Nashville, not far from Knoxville. So
get the rumors started.
We did say our goodbyes. I feel like at some point it's hard to, you know, if you bring back like Rodgers and Yaz, it's like,
yeah, you can't do the we're starting fresh with a whole new vibe and a whole new strategy and then bring everyone back.
You're just running it back. But I think they need a guy in the corner. And then they were looking at second baseman before they collapsed in July.
I know you're a Schmidt head, but I'm getting a lot of questions from our listeners about second base.
Schmidt head's a good one. They were looking. I think it's not. There's going to be some guys out there. I mean, some veterans, some guys who maybe. The thing about second base is generally a lot of those guys don't swing and miss like a lot of the better ones. They're a little bit more traditional, old school back control guys, which this lineup needs. I think I could go either way there. I'd be totally fine with Casey Schmidt running it back, letting him, have a full off season to focus on. I've mentioned this here before, but remember, like the first week of the season, he's learning first base on the fly because he's like, how can I get on the field? So a full off season. I know I talked to Casey at the end of the year. Like his plan is to lose a little bit of weight and become a little bit quicker out there. He had bulked up to play the corners and hit for more power, but I think he realized maybe lost some foot speed there defensively at second base. Hit a dozen homers. He was about league average as a hitter. It'd be totally fine if that's the option. But if you find a good veteran to throw in the mix there, and remember, you're going to need a bench too. So
yeah. And the news this week was the name that was tied to the Giants at second base all last offseason did decline his option, which is Ha-Seong Kim. So we'll see if that's another possibility at least discussed.
That was Bowmel's guy.
That was.
Yeah, he was. I wonder if he'll get a shot to play shortstop somewhere. But he'll be out there. We will probably hear their name in Bo Bichette rumors, even though some of the contract numbers I've seen thrown out for him are very, very, very high. So that's one of those where you kind of go like, okay, well, your first baseman has what, 250 left on his deal. Your shortstop has 150. Your third baseman has one something. So I don't know if you want your whole infield to be on.
Yeah.
We've kind of done this before. Like we've done this years ago where you have all these long-term deals and you go like, oh, that's not great when they all hit their 30s.
Yes. All right. There is our first thoughts on the offseason, what the Giants should be focusing on, what the situation is. The next must focus on topic is coaching. Giants locked down their new manager in Tony Vitello right away before the World Series was even over. And he has yet to fill out his coaching staff. So we want to kind of talk about who might return or who's at least confirmed to be gone or confirmed to return, and then toss some thoughts around about potentially where they could go from here.
Yeah, Ryan Christensen got hired by the A's today. He's their first base coach. Matt Williams reportedly will not be back. Pat Burrell is going to be staying. I think it was Susan Slusser who wrote, will we talk to Pat? He'll be staying with the Giants in some role. I saw, I shouldn't do this, but I read the quote tweets on that one. And it was like, I saw that anger. Pat has had a tremendous reputation in this organization, going back to being a scout, like when they beat the Tigers in the World Series. So if Tony doesn't want him to be part of the hitting staff, but they want, like, there's still a lot he can offer to Giants hitters. And he has, remember for years, like, I think I know I've written it, but we'd mention it here every once in a while. Like he got a lot of credit for the work he was doing with minor leaguers. So there's a reason he got elevated to the staff at some point. So if he's staying with the organization in some role, I think that's a positive.
I would love to keep Burrell on board here. I think he's, obviously the offense was, to put it mildly, rough last year, and that was his purview, but taking him out of that role and keeping him here in some capacity, fabulous.
Yeah, I think he can help.
Yeah. All right, well, let's take a look around the league then at other options. Vitello's going to have a whole new staff to fill. Do you have a name that first comes to your head?
Well, the name that's been, I know I've seen it in a few stories, but it's no longer an option, is Antoine Richardson, who was the first base coach in New York. He was part of Gabe's staff here. It seemed like I'm waiting to read the right story on what happened there, because he ends up becoming the first base coach of the Braves. And like when it fell apart with the Mets, I kind of thought like he has some friends around the league now. One of them must, maybe he's going to be a bench coach, or there's some elevated title
Take
here.
A step up.
Nope. Lateral move in division. Sounds like it was a salary dispute, which is wild when you're talking about the Mets.
Yeah.
So that's wild. I don't, beyond that, I don't know that any of the names that we get asked about guys like Ron Washington. I know Jace Tingler's name has been out there a little bit. He's known Tony for a long time. I think they're really they were jumping into this last week, like as they were introducing him. So they're trying to figure this out here. does not sound like a lot of people, if anybody's coming over from Tennessee. I mean, they've kind of solidified that staff under their next coach. But yeah, we'll see what they end up doing here. I know, I think the expectation is at least a couple people stay. JP makes a ton of sense to me. The pitching side makes a ton of sense with what JP and Garvin Austin did with the pitchers. I think that continuity is potentially really important. And then Mark Hallberg obviously is one of Buster's close friends and someone we had talked about as a potential manager candidate. And I wonder how a new manager would feel about that. But he also has a really good reputation in this game and has done a really nice job the last 2 years by all accounts. So I would expect him to be part of that mix. And then our guy, Ron Wotus, he's just forever around.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about experience and adding someone in the dugout who knows every rule and knows everything, he's high on that list.
Yeah. We can't really continue the Giants coaching conversation talking about Giants managers without touching on the news that Giants former manager of the year award winner, Gabe Kapler, was named GM down in Miami, where he's been since he left the Giants. What do you make of this? Does this surprise you at all? I mean, you've got your ear to the league better than I do. You hear what people are saying on other teams and other clubhouses, but I was a big, to the chagrin of many of our listeners, I was a big Kapler guy, even when he got cut.
I think both of us were, felt he got scapegoated.
Absolutely.
In a lot of ways. And I did start to see a lot of Giants fans this year who were just like, oh, this hasn't gotten any better. And also like, there's maybe a lot more talent here than there was 2 years ago.
I wonder if Gabe wins more than 82 games.
So I'm not surprised, just because I had been joking with some people who know him like over the course of this year about like, when's he going to get the manager job there or somewhere, like once he's, and they're like, I really think he wants to do this front office thing and that was his roots in player development. And so I'm not surprised. I mean, he got a promotion from assistant GM to GM and a big title for him. And they're reloading, whatever they're doing there in Miami, whoever knows. But I do think at some point he's going to be the head of a baseball ops department. Like, I think he's an absolute grinder, and he's very polarizing. There's a lot of rough traits. There's also a lot of positives. And I find, we'll talk about the coaches in a second here because someone sent us a question about him, but his coaches, but I just don't think you can ever ignore like that 107 win season and just kind of go like, that was really, everything else before and around that has been the same at Oracle Park. And there's something there. I don't know what this will be for him, but I think this is a good path for him. I'm excited to see. I miss his interviews. So hopefully there's some GM sit downs. We get some fun Kapler quotes out of it.
I'll be tuning into those. Absolutely. That brings us to a mailbag question from Jacob. Jacob says, could you guys go through most of Kapler's staff and where they are currently, and maybe what their strengths were, like Antoine being good with base running? And this seems like a good question to dive into as the Giants look for coaches. We talk about coaches who were formerly with this team and potentially have moved on to bigger and better things around the league. And with obviously Gabe running the GM area with Miami. All right, so let's start with Craig Albornoz. This is a name we threw around a lot in the preliminary post Bob Melvin talks, but that dried up quickly as he was announced to be manager for the Baltimore Orioles this October.
Yeah. I don't think he was ever involved with the Giants. Stephen Vogt's like one of his closest friends, Orioles manager. I think very highly of him. I think what I'll do is I'm going to go through the list here just for people who've been wondering where some of these people ended up and where they are. And a good signal too, which you and I have talked about, is like there's been success post Giants firings. And my main thing with this group is, and this is why I kept thinking of him when Buster was looking for a new manager, and I think he found this with Tony. They were like just an incredible group of grinders, like people who were there incredibly early, their late, watching opposing teams batting practice to see if they could pick up anything on anything. Constantly, some of it was probably overkill, like the simulated games and all that during the shutdown, but just constantly trying to find new ways to do things. And I think you look back at that season, and it was a really special season. Certainly Buster and Crawford and Belt and those guys get a ton of credit for it, and Logan Webb's emergence and Camilo coming in late. But they did a great job, too, of developing and finding the right pinch hitters. So I do think I'm curious when we get this Giants coaching staff, how much we look at it and go like, this is a little similar to maybe what Buster had his last year, or if they're going to go totally off the board here and it's going to be a bunch of really experienced guys. But yeah, Albie's the manager for the Orioles. A nice little spot too. Like that's a talented roster.
Yeah.
There's like the expectations are low now. Kai Correa, the bench coach for the Mets.
One-time Giants manager.
Yeah, interim Giants manager. Nice spot for Kai too. Like that manager was on the hot seat last year. So pretty slick move there, Kai. We mentioned Antoine. Andrew Bailey is still the pitching coach in Boston, taking care of our guy Kyle Harrison. Brian Bannister, who had a big role here. He is back with the White Sox. Donnie Eckert, no word of him since he was dismissed as Rangers hitting coach. He's the one who was like on the highest trajectory right off the bat. And he very smartly jumped ship and went to be like high up there in Texas. And I think probably, a lot of people thought he'd be a manager by now, but did not ultimately work out there. He won a ring, but Justin Vealey still there in Texas. Dustin Lind, assistant hitting coach with the Phillies. So he's done a nice job there. Nick Ortiz, back in the minor leagues. Alyssa Nakin, we talked about a ton over the years. She's doing the front office thing as well. Assistant director of player development in Cleveland. And then a lot of guys who are still here. Ron Wotus, still here. My analyst every once in a while.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's not only here, he's part of the family.
Coworker, yeah. And then Tyra is still here. Mark Hallberg's still here. JP Martinez was a Gabe guy. He's still here. So, yeah, we'll see how many of those guys are on Tony's staff. But that group has actually done pretty well and doesn't surprise me because I thought that was a really good coaching staff. And
yeah, I mean, if you could take the 2021 coaching staff, that version of them, and just assign them to this 2026 team, that feels good.
You can't do this, but I wish there was like a video game where we could be like, put the whole environment from 21 and 22 with last year's roster.
Yeah.
And like, what does that look like? But yeah, I personally got to know a lot of those guys too, and I like them. So I'm happy to see them. And I also think it's like kind of cool. Like we're going to see former Giants coaches coming in as managers. So I like that.
Yeah, there were no hard feelings leaving the Giants, at least from the fan side with those guys. So it is cool to see them climb the ranks, get teams of their own. And, the sky's the limit for some of these guys.
Yeah, there's not really like coaching trees as much anymore. But that one potentially could be like.
Yeah, trace it all back to the 2021 Giants.
I think Gabe, the GM, might look around in a couple of years and be like, I have 2-3 managers around the league and assistant GM somewhere else. And
I've seeded this league.
Yeah.
All right. We peppered in a few mailbag questions so far, but I want to do a dedicated segment to get to some of the questions you guys have been giving us. But first, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Mancini Sleep World's Black Friday sale is on. Save more than $500 on top mattress brands with prices starting as low as $100 and recliners for less than $300. Don't sleep on this. Visit your local Mancini Sleep World or visit sleepworld.com. All right, as always, if you have questions for us, send them to us wherever you can find Alex and I on social media. That's Twitter, that's Blue Sky, that's Instagram. Is that Facebook? Are you on Facebook?
No.
Yeah, not really. No. Not Facebook.
I gave up on it.
LinkedIn, YouTube comments were.
YouTube comments. We've grabbed a couple from there. So
yeah, get us your questions. We will get to them throughout this off season.
Sorry, Zuck. We gave up.
I want to start with an answer. Many listeners sent this in, so I'm not going to attribute it to anyone specific. But you and I, during the Vitello introduction, mentioned the mustard thing. That Tennessee fans were mailing cases and bottles and crates of mustard to Oracle Park. I don't know, it was a protest or it was going to convince Tony to stay. I don't know what, it was just a thing to do, I guess, a symbolic gesture. But we got the answer to what happened. So I guess during a particularly contentious game a few years ago, Tennessee fans were throwing stuff on the field, and a bottle of mustard was included in what got tossed.
Yeah, it didn't really answer our question.
Not really.
It's funny because I guess I'm sure a lot of Giants Talk listeners like got deep into Tennessee baseball for like 4 days, like I did, and you see those references, and it didn't really answer my question. It also reminded me that like sometimes we're so insular with our like inside jokes, and there's things that we would joke about or talk about here that like most listeners would be like, yeah, and if you're like a Padres fan, you'd be like, what the F are you guys talking about? So yeah, the mustard thing did it. I will say I did the Ballpark Back 9 last night. They had like a little media event. And I had a hot dog with some mustard on it. So potentially it came from Tennessee.
That's great. Yeah.
Maybe. Also, have you ever done that? You don't really
no, but I was eyeing it for this season.
Highly recommended.
Okay.
Like I've done it a couple times now. If you golf at all, like highly recommend. It is really, I can't understate how fun it is. And even as somebody who is there every day to, hit a pitching wedge off of like the upper deck. So
I golfed for the first time in 8 years, about a week last week or the week before. And I hit a birdie, Alex. I hit a birdie.
Look at you.
Yeah. So I might retire just with that as my final round.
You could. Yeah, you could. No, it's fun. It's a good thing. And had the Warriors game on last night on the scoreboard. I'm like, I'm hitting golf balls at center field with the Warriors game on. Like, this is not a bad way to spend a Tuesday.
Alex is living the off-season life. This is those 5 days you get off.
One night. No, I just think they do it's one of my favorite things that they do it's been like every year now for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So,
no,
it's and I golf anyway. So I'm just like, this is cool.
Yeah. All right. Did that answer the mustard question?
No, not really. I never had an answer really on the mustard anyway. I'm like,
it's
okay.
Just, I think they threw mustard on the field once during like a half riot. And then they would start to throw mustard on the field just to like embrace that. It's like throwing tortillas on the field at a UCSB soccer game.
You know what? I'm putting it on my list for Tony at some point. Maybe he has a better explanation.
That's a great question. We have received a couple of questions for Tony already. We'll throw this one on there. I don't know that we'll ever get a chance to ask him these, but we'll have them just in case.
I'm asking him. Maybe he has a better mustard. Maybe he laughed at it more than we were. We were just like, okay.
Yeah. All right. Next question is from Cube. Cube said, with Tony V's lack of experience managing a bullpen, do you think the Giants could try a separation of powers by having a pitching coach with more or less final say of endgame decisions for his first year on the job, kind of like an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator in football?
It's a great question, and I will answer it in part by saying that this kind of happens already. Like, a lot of pitching stuff is decided pregame. It's decided in-game and kind of brought to the manager. And then they have final say, obviously, and like they're the ones who decide when to go out there, which I think is the most important part of that job. And one thing that was probably one of Bob's biggest issues maybe was deciding which batter to go get someone for. Mm-hmm. But in general, a lot of this now is really decided for you in terms of who's available and when they're going to pitch and, which pockets of the lineup they're going to face. So, but I don't think he'll do it that officially, but if it is somebody with a lot of experience and it's potentially like if it's JP coming back, like, I think he's going to lean on that person a ton and then go with his gut when he can.
Joshua says, do you see the Giants as a desirable destination for free agents now that they have a guy like Tony Vitello at manager and Adames and Devers in the lineup? I feel like part of the reason why Ohtani and Judge spurned us was because they would have had to be the guy here. But now that we have bigger names and a more energetic manager, do you envision more higher end free agents would be willing to sign here? Obviously, the Giants' money is just as good as other teams, but it always felt like there were other reasons why the big name free agents never signed here. Wild take that Ohtani or Judge wouldn't be the guy here.
Or maybe that they were worried I read it as they were worried they would be the only guy here.
I thought it was like spotlights on you. Yeah. But sorry, Ohtani. Now we're spotlighting on Drew Gilbert.
Well, we might. After a home run, yes. Well, those two guys too, Judge clearly used the Giants to get what he wanted out of New York, and Ohtani clearly was going back to Los Angeles.
Yes.
So, and I can't fault either one of those guys for the decision they ultimately made. So
didn't we do a whole off season, potentially even 2 off seasons of podcasts about how the reasons that players aren't signing here are money?
That was going to be my short answer to this is almost every guy takes the big contract.
Yes.
And I'll use Adames actually as an example. He did not know anything about anything here. Like, I don't mean that disrespectfully. Like, he had no connection here. He had no, like, nobody calling him, and like no best friend here or anything like that. The Giants offered him a massive contract and did it early in the offseason. And Buster made a compelling case. Like, I think there's something to be said for like Buster and Tony will be very good in the room, and I think they will get, every person they want to talk to. I think they will get to talk to that person, which generally the Giants do anyway, because agents know they have money and they can use them in that way, either to get the contract or get the bigger contract from somebody else. But I think they're going to be great in that room. They might be, if there's a guy who's like looking for like to our earlier conversation, guy who's looking for a $10 million contract somewhere, 1 year, 10 million. He knows that's what he's going to get, wants to go somewhere and be successful and build off that next year. Like Buster and Tony are going to be great in those situations, I think.
Yeah.
But the big guys either know where they're going or they go and take the biggest contract. Yeah. So if you're talking Kyle Tucker, like Kyle Tucker's going to go to whoever pays him the biggest contract this offseason. So that's how almost all of these things work. And I think we can like romanticize some of the other stuff, but
is there a notable free agent, big top tier free agent from the past few years who didn't take the big one? Like Freddie Freeman comes to mind, but I think that ended up being like miscommunications between agent and team.
Yeah. I mean, that was everything burned in like Atlanta weirdly, and they traded Matt Olson, and almost every single guy, and teams know this and players know this. It's why sometimes we can make the connections. And there are certain cases, like I think, Willie and Freddie Peralta are very close. Mm-hmm. Not a free agent, but like there's cases like that. But in general, almost all these guys take the biggest contract. And that's where you want it. The Giants' money is as good as any other money. And if they offer the biggest contract to whoever, let's say Bo Bichette ends up being the guy they want. Like if they offer him the biggest contract, he will come here.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Great question. Next one is from Sebastian. Sebastian says, is Elliot Ramos' defense fixable, and how does that affect the Giants' plans involving him?
Yes. One, I'll say that for 2 reasons. One, we've seen him be better before this year.
Yes.
In center field too. So like, and 2, I'll give you 3 reasons. 2, he was actually better in the second half. He was much better than he was, in August and September, much better than earlier in the season. And the 3rd reason is I think he is very, very self-aware about this. Mm-hmm. Like I talked to him about this a couple times in the second half. He knows he did not have a good season. He knows it was talked about a lot. He knows he can get a lot better. So I think it's going to be a huge point of emphasis for him. And I do think he's the guy who stands out to me as like somebody that Tony can help. And maybe not Tony specifically, whoever he brings in to coach outfielders, whoever he brings, like he's an upside guy. He's the guy where we know there's more in the tank with Elliot Ramos. Mm-hmm. And he stands out to me as someone that this next coaching staff, like it's going to be crucial to get more out of him. He's an all-star. He had a rough year.
Part 2 of this question, with Tony Vitello's emphasis on player development continuing in the big leagues, could Matos and Luciano have a role in 2026?
Have you seen Tony's done a lot of interviews the last few days?
Yeah.
And a lot of this is because it wasn't necessarily like Giants. We haven't gotten a lot of specifics on the roster. And I even asked at the press conference and just not a lot. I think this is all new to him as well. One thing I'm curious about, and this question brought it up, is like, does he come in and spend a month looking at everybody and look through people's backgrounds and look at swings and things like that and go like, I really love that. Like, I really believe in that guy. Like, yeah. So is that the case? Maybe there's a guy, Meckleheads. Maybe he gets in here and goes like, that's my guy.
Yeah.
Like it's, I love that profile. So we don't know that yet. I don't think he even knows that yet, because I think he is probably so busy trying to put together a coaching staff right now that he hasn't had time to like dig into Wade Meckler and Luis Matos and Marco Luciano stats. But those are three guys they do have to make decisions on this offseason. I don't think you can bring more than like one of them to camp.
It is an interesting thing I hadn't really thought about is how having a manager with such a historical emphasis on player development, just being a college coach, impacting some guys that, I don't know, I had already mentally cut ties with. Totally could reshape, one of those players' futures with the team.
I think they're all out of options going into next season. I put Matos in a little bit of a different boat just because he has played a fair amount the last 2 years, for better or worse. We've seen flashes from him. I mean, the Giants can say what they want about Luciano. We never saw him this year. So we just never saw him. And I think they just have to throw him in a trade this offseason and move on. Unless Tony comes in and he's like, I love that guy. Yeah. I can turn that guy into a big leaguer. But at some point with some of these guys, especially with the 40-man roster, like, and how much pitching they need to add to it, like, they have some guys who are just sitting and they just never use them or take a look at them.
Yeah. One more question for today's episode. This is a fun one. Troy asks, has Alex watched the Caught Stealing movie yet? It's been out on streaming for a while. We need to get his thoughts.
I have not.
You're talking about I'm going out golfing at the ballpark and I've got days off. You haven't watched it?
That was my one social activity in the last 6 weeks. So people, if any young parents have any ideas on how to get a 2-year-old to go to sleep faster, like, send them my way along with mailbag questions. No, we're stuck in this weird
2 types of topics.
Yeah, we're stuck in this weird cycle where he just doesn't want to go to sleep at night, and one of us has to spend time with him to put him down. And by the time that's over, there's just not time to watch a movie. So
yeah, that's fair.
Have not gotten to the off-season movies yet, but at some point I will. That is on my list.
When you watch this, that is potentially emergency podcast 1 of the off-season.
What's the most likely answer here is that's like showing on my flight to the winter meetings. And I'm like, 5 hours? What is it? 6 hours to Orlando?
We'll watch it twice.
Yeah. Watch that. Watch whatever Fast and Furious is on the United tab this time, and we'll be good to go.
Yep. Fantastic. All right. So, Troy, we're still holding on Alex seeing what is likely Cole's pick for Best Picture 2026.
And for real, if you have advice on how to get a 2-year-old to sleep, like,
I wish I could be more helpful. I come from like a dog background. So, like, have you tried crate training?
Don't know if I'd get to keep him. Yeah, that is crate training. I'm very good at crate training.
Yeah.
I'm 2-year-olds. No, looking for answers.
No. All right. Well, if you have questions or toddler advice for Alex, send them to us wherever you can find us on social media. Until then, don't forget to subscribe to Giants Talk wherever you listen to your podcast. Don't forget to give us a positive review if you're a fan of the show. If you're not a fan, props for getting this far in the episode. Don't know why. And go buy Alex's book, The Franchise, available on paperback at a bookstore near you. I have at least 3 friends getting The Franchise for Christmas this year.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Actually, I've signed some for people who wanted like a surprise gift for their husband or boyfriend or wife or son, whoever. November is a great time to get that done because I don't have a lot going on. If you hit me up like after the winter meetings when maybe we have a pitcher coming in for a press conference, it might not get there by Christmas. But yeah, I'd be happy to sign anything for anybody.
Awesome. All right. See you guys.